Hi, this will be a video, a list talking video, question mark, about my top 10 favorite props of all time. Before I start, I would like to make a disclaimer to clarify something. I am by no means saying that these are the top 10 best spirit props, or props in general, of all time. That is not what my intention here. My taste is very, very subjective, and I don't like when people make lists of like the top 10 props ever made, because like you can't really quantify that, you know? Like there's some that are objectively better than others, but you know, it all comes down to taste. That's the entire point of my I'm peeved video, so if I were trying to say these are the best ones ever made, I would be the world's biggest hypocrite. Like, I love Punchy, but I can respect and acknowledge the fact that he's a piece of garbage. But anyway, so now on to the actual list of my top 10 favorites of all time. Number 10 was a bit of a difficult spot to figure out. For a while I kind of had a bunch of them who were tied for number 10, but I think I can say with confidence that Lord Raven is my 10th. He is absolutely badass, and I love this guy. One of my favorites of 2022. And he's just so fucking cool. Despite not being particularly large, I still find him to be extremely intimidating, and I think in terms of like Reaper Demon type props, he's definitely one of the most unique. Yeah, he's 10. He's number 10. Number 9 is Cuddles. He very narrowly beats out Lord Raven because I think Cuddles is genuinely one of the most horrific ones that I own. Oh god, I touched the back of my head. His sheer size is really impressive. Like, even just standing next to him, despite me owning him for like half a year at this point, probably, no, more than that, I'm just still like, I still am intimidated by him. And I think just the fact that he's like the combination between a clown and like some kind of eldritch demon being, goodness, it is great. And I love everything about him. The only thing that keeps him this low on the list is that most of his phrases I'm not exactly a fan of. There's two that are really good, specifically the come with us, and then this one, are you in love with the circus? Those two are my favorites, but all the rest of them are very so that's why he's not higher up on the list. My number 8 is Barnyard Butcher. This guy is one that I've loved ever since he came out. I was absolutely horrified by him, even just in videos. And I remember in the store, I only really stayed at the front because, my lord, I was a huge pussy back in 2014. Funny story about that, I remember seeing like this little, 6-year-old girl walk up to Witch of Stolen Souls and activate her while I was just cowering in fear near like my dad and the costume section. I was a huge pussy. But anyway, Barnyard Butcher I think is a fantastic execution of an equally fantastic idea. And I think New Ray Sun is really good with that, except for when it comes to quality. Barnyard Butcher's kind of built like shit. And yeah, so he has his flaws, and I don't think he's like... People, I think, give him genuinely too much credit for being like a gory masterpiece of horror. Like, he's good, he's creepy as shit. He genuinely, like, the sounds from the severed head make me actively very uncomfortable. And his voice is great. But I think he gets too much credit. But he is still my number 8 for the variety of reasons that I have already mentioned. Mine, unfortunately, the body turn is fried, but I don't really mind that. I just kind of took out his gearbox and zip-tied his waist together so he'll stay in the same position. Maybe someday I'll get his board fixed, but I don't really care right now. As long as both the mouths work, I'm chill. Number 7 is Grim. This guy is easily my favorite out of 2021, and still he's my favorite of the servo props that SVI has made thus far. I own only 3 of them right now. I have Guitar Skelly, Grim, and then Strawman, who's back there. I don't know how well you can see him. But Grim, I just love everything about him. We don't really get that many skeleton props. I mean, we have been more recently, which is good. But I think Grim really was one of the things that kicked it off, along with the 12-foot Skelly, but fuck that thing. But I think Grim is like a masterful execution of the mechanical side of it, along with just a great character. I love all of his phrases, all of his lines, his voice I adore. I just love everything about his soundtrack and even his looks, despite being really basic. It's honestly quite impressive that, like, you can just reach into his ribcage and not really touch any wiring or anything. It is genuinely quite impressive to me. And his movement is just programmed really well for this being pretty much their first time at it. He's just a masterfully executed prop, in my opinion. And I think he's one that will still turn heads for years to come. My number 6 is Cagey, specifically the Cagey with Nibbles. I think it's a very creative concept, and I think it was a really well done execution of said concept. I have to talk a little loud because Nibbles' motor is loud as shit, but that's okay. I think he's better than Ringmaster, personally. The way that Nibbles and Cagey play off of each other during the dialogue is really good, in my opinion, and I really like it. The way that they interact, even despite Nibbles not talking, is just absolutely wonderful. And Cagey himself is a really gruesome design, especially in the face area. How it's not actually like makeup on his face, he just gashed the fuck out of his own face. Along with his lines themselves, his voice, the jokes that he cracks about, you know, fucking eating people, it's all just fantastic. My number 5 favorite of all time is the Flaming Black Widow Witch. This prop has probably my favorite audio out of any prop ever made. Her vocals, the voice actress's screams and laughs, the writing itself, how she like speaks the incantations in a couple of phrases, everything about it is incredible. She's easily my favorite witch prop ever made. And I just think she's an excellent character. There are a few things with her execution. She's shorter than I would like her to be. That's part of the reason why I have her specifically on a riser. But I can get over that. The flame box looks a little jank at times. Like, it's really just like small things, you know? But I think overall, she's a fantastic execution of an absolutely terrifying character. And just, my God, her audio gives me chills. Along with her lighting, it is uncanny as shit. So, yeah. My number 4 is Nozzles. He very narrowly beats out Black Widow Witch because I think that his audio, while being not quite as good as hers, I think his character in and of itself is just one of the most interesting and well-crafted characters that any prop has really been given. Just his lines, everything, the whole concept in and of itself is really creative, and I think it was very well done in a very comical yet morbid way, you know? And along with that, his fog feature is incredible. He's just, his face is designed incredibly. Oh my lord, I have so many positives to talk about this guy. Is he worth $350? Fuck no. But was I willing to pay $330 just to get him because I love him that much? Yes. My number 4 is Untimely Death. While she is not the most intimidating character of all time, I think she's extremely ominous in a way that she really needed to be for her to be a good prop. I think Seasonal Visions did a fantastic job on her. Everything about this prop is great. There's only one complaint, and it's like a minor one. It's just that she has a half head, but you really can't see that under the hood, so I don't really care that much. Everything was well done on her. Her face mold is one of the most human out of any prop. Her mouth movement, especially, is extremely realistic. Her mouth doesn't open as wide as other props, and I think it's good for her. It adds to the more humanoid look to her. I think that's what makes her so damn creepy. Along with that, her cloth and her materials are really good for some reason. Like, for a prop that's supposed to be made of stone, she feels like a blanket. The urn, the effects with the urn are fantastically done. I love her lines. The only thing is she only has 2, which is a little unfortunate, but I could listen to them on loop all day. I love them so much. her vocal effects, the screams at the end of the lines, the voice of the urn itself, the way that the urn actually talks and that it lights up her face. My goodness, everything on this prop is so well done. And I know I've said that for a lot of props, but for her, I genuinely mean it when I say that she is a perfect execution. Moving over about a foot in my display, my second favorite of all time is Bone Collector. This is one that has been a dream of mine, or had been a dream of mine, since I was about 7 years old. I had loved this prop since I first got into Spirit. He was one of the first ones that I saw on videos, and he was the first one that I ever really truly fell in love with. I love everything about him. There are a couple of flaws, and I acknowledge them. His sculpting is really fucking jank. Like, the skull is not the best of skull sculpts out there. Especially because, you know, it was originally a tail loop sculpt, and then it got yoinked by YJ for him, and YJ's foam filling with their latex heads is not nearly as good as Tailuk's, but I don't mind it. I can get past all that because his movements are some of the most creative I've ever seen on a prop. It's something that you genuinely would not expect if you didn't know who this guy was. His posability with his arms and his fingers is just so fun. You can put him in so many different poses, and you know, you can make him really in any situation. That's why they put him in a damn circus originally at Spirit. His voice lines are great. I'm so glad that YJ went to Seasonal Visions for the voice, because back then, YJ themselves was not the best at audio engineering, like, especially, and voice acting. Like, back then, some of their voices for props were not fantastic, so I'm really glad that they went over to Seasonal Visions, because, like, SVI has always had great audio, and they really knocked it out of the park for him. His voice, his lines, the writing, the organs in the background, the sound effects, all of it is delightfully cheesy, yet creepy. And it is amazing. I'll do a short demo of him since obviously he doesn't have a constant mode, and also since he's old, he doesn't have volume control, so I couldn't really play him constantly on a low volume like I could the rest of these guys.
Well, it is nice to see some warm flesh again. You better run before you become my next meal.
And I think Bone Collector also has some of the greatest, like, most impressive build quality out of my collection, just in terms of the fact that he's a fucking brick. For context, this one has been used in outside haunts for years, and he has absolutely no rot anywhere, and his mechanics are immaculate. Before I go on to number one, I'm gonna give a few honorable mentions of the props that, like, barely just don't make the cut. Those being Wacky. I'm sorry, Leggy, I love him, but, like, he's just not on my top 10 list, but I adore him. Harbinger of Hell, Strawman, and yeah, that's pretty much all of them. They were all kind of tied for number 10 for a little while, but then I finally decided on Lord Raven for the number 10 spot. And, like, past that, there's a couple others in my collection who are really high up. Specifically, Bite Size and Exterminator and Punchy. But, you know, none of them made the top 10 list, because I love all of those that I have mentioned, but there are some that I just find a little better, or at least that I find myself liking more. Now, my favorite prop of all time is Grimsley the Great, and oh boy, is he great. Basically, take all of the positive attributes of every prop that I've talked about previously, how they're like a well-executed character, really terrifying design, really great face, really great audio. Take all of those, apply them to Grimsley in a perfect balance of what I think is one of the creepiest props to ever be manufactured. He has so many positives about him. He's just, oh my lord, he is such a character. His voice lines, his actual voice itself, is horrific. He's so forward about the fact that he just wants to fucking kill you. Like, especially in his second phrase, the I'm looking for someone to play hide and seek with, when he screams, "Start running," Lord, that gives me chills. It actually startled me the first time I ever heard it. He's so loud and just brutal. Like, his backstory lends well to his own character as well. Just, my goodness. His suit, the fact that there's dried blood all over his fucking jumpsuit, like, his face in and of itself, oh my god, everything about him I love. He is the exact thing that I think makes a Halloween prop good. He's everything that I think makes a prop good, all in one really good-ass bundle. He's one of the only props that I can look at and still be kind of intimidated by. One of my only ones that still intimidates me. Like, especially if he's, like, in a kitchen or something, a setting where he's not around all the others. Like, when they were in the garage for the haunt, he's the only one that really, like, I looked at and made me nervous, you know? Just, oh my goodness, he's such a masterfully done character. I know I'm just simping for this guy, and I know, again, he has his issues as well, but he is my #1 favorite prop of all time, ever made.